So, let's talk about one of the biggest questions we all face. How do we actually genuinely connect with other people? Today we're going to look at two very different blueprints for our relationships. One that's all about technique, and another that's about a much deeper kind of transformation.
I mean, you've felt this, right? Trying to connect with people, trying to influence them in a good way, trying to just avoid conflict. It can feel like you're constantly trying to solve a puzzle with no instructions. We all want better relationships, but man, getting there is often the hardest part of life.
And for almost 100 years now, one name has really stood out from the crowd, offering a super clear, really practical set of rules for how to solve this puzzle. His work has sold literally tens of millions of copies, promising a reliable way to win friends and influence people.
And yeah, that name is, of course, Dale Carnegie. His approach was just so incredibly pragmatic. He taught that certain behaviors are just guaranteed to fail. Criticism, for example, a total dead end. Like he said, it just wounds people's pride, makes them resent you, and it never, ever leads to real change.
Carnegie's whole system is built on principles just like these. And you gotta admit, they're undeniably wise. Don't criticize, give honest, sincere appreciation, try to see things from the other person's point of view. I mean, these are solid, foundational rules for getting along with pretty much anyone.
And look, they work. They absolutely work. Millions of people have used these techniques to become better managers, better salespeople, and better friends. But the source material we're looking at today suggests there might be something missing, a deeper layer that technique on its own just can't quite reach.
And that really brings us to the core question of this Hall explainer. If these rules are so effective, why can they sometimes feel, I don't know, a little hollow? Why does using them sometimes feel like you're putting on a performance? Or even worse, being manipulative, both for you and for the person you're talking to?
Well, the sources we're digging into propose a really powerful answer. It turns out the problem isn't the action itself. It's not what you're doing. The problem and the solution is one level deeper. It's all about why you're doing it. The motive changes absolutely everything.
And this is where you can really see the split. It boils the two approaches down to their absolute core. For Carnegie, the goal of all these techniques is, fundamentally, influence. For Scripture, though, the goal is something else entirely. It's love.
I mean, listen to this quote from the source material. It just perfectly crystallizes the difference. The outward action might look exactly the same, thinking from the other person's perspective, but the end goal is worlds apart. One is to move you. The other is to die for you.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's take a couple of these famous principles and see how changing the why completely transforms the what.
All right, let's take a classic Carnegie rule. Remember and use a person's name. The technique works because, and he's totally right about this, hearing our own name just feels good. It makes us feel seen, it makes us feel important. It's an incredible tool for building rapport. But then, when you look at this through the lens of our source material, the exact same action gets completely reframed. Here, God calls a person by name, not as a technique, but as a declaration of belonging, of ownership, of deep love. It's not about networking, it's about covenant.
So you see, it's the exact same action, remembering a name, but the source, the why behind it, is just worlds apart. One is a tactic, the other is an echo of a defined act of valuing someone. Let's do one more. Okay, how about this one? Give honest appreciation. Carnegie's reasoning here is, again, just flawless from a practical standpoint. People have this deep, deep craving to feel important. And if you can genuinely feed that need, you build enormous goodwill.
But the transformation here is that this principle is rooted in the very character of God. In the Bible, you see God the Father openly, publicly appreciating his Son. So suddenly, appreciation isn't just a tool to make people feel good, it's a reflection of a divine character trait.
So where does all this leave us? Well, it suggests a pretty radical shift in focus. Maybe the goal isn't to memorize and master this long checklist of social techniques and behavioral rules. I mean, that can get exhausting, and it can feel totally inauthentic. Instead, the source material points us towards something different, connecting with a single, central source from which all these positive behaviors can just flow naturally. It's about changing the engine, not just learning how to drive the car better.
Think about it like this. Dale Carnegie's system is built on 30 core principles.
30 distinct things to remember, to practice. It's a whole checklist for better behavior.
The alternative approach that we're looking at contrasts those 30 things with just one.
Not another rule to follow, but a single source from which everything else can flow.
And according to the source material, that single source is love. The idea is that if you connect to love as your core motive, you won't even need the checklist anymore. You'll naturally do the things on it, not as a technique to influence people, but as a genuine expression of who you are.
And that leaves all of us with a final, really provocative question to reflect on. When we interact with the people in our lives, our family, our friends, our coworkers, are we operating from a set of learned techniques that are designed to get a result? Or are our actions flowing from a deeper, transformed source? It's a question that's definitely worth considering.